As if austerity, rising poverty and joblessness weren't enough, the EU's facing another crisis from its own shadow economy. In Spain alone, up to 30% of business is now hidden from government and tax inspectors. As our T-Stats Arcilia finds out, across the bloc, it's getting worse.
For millions of Europeans who find themselves stuck between a rock and a hard place in times of austerity, staying in the shadow is increasingly seen as a viable option to making ends meet, far from the taxman and the grip of government. The shadow economy is a blurry area of cash-only economic activity deliberately hidden from authorities, such as undeclared work and wages or underreported business transactions. In fact, the international organization, the OECD, predicts that by 2020, the shadow economy will employ up to 2/3 of the world's workers. Now, if that sounds rather apocalyptic, let's just look at the EU's data for 2012. There's about 1 trillion euros in potential tax revenues lost, and the total budget deficit for the entire bloc amounts to about 514 billion euros. And this shadow economy makes up to 1/5 of the GDP of the bloc. Now, in times of crises, the shadow looms larger. In fact, most of that activity takes place in some of the largest economies in Europe, such as France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and the UK. Now, Spain is known to have a very robust underground economy, amounting to about 29% of its GDP.
The austerity has taken money out of the economies. It's led to the rising of taxes and the cutting of public expenditure. There's an increasingly high number of people who are having to work in the black market because the cost of living goes up and living standards go down as a result of the austerity.
Analysts have related the rise of this phenomenon to crises and its cycles, and governments in turn are trying to play catch-up. Some have tried to limit the circulation of 500 and 200 euro notes or encourage the use of electronic payments, but unless the official economy significantly rises from the doldrums, the effects may be limited. As more and more Europeans get disillusioned and are becoming distrusting of their governments, the lure and appeal of the shadow economy may just be too appealing to turn down.
Now, taxes and cuts to benefits are believed to be the predominant causes for the growth of the shadow economy. And the problem is getting drastic, says Professor Trader Felix Moreno de la Cova, given just how oppressively some of Europe's workers are taxed.
Spanish workers, and I'm not talking about rich workers, I'm talking about minimum wage workers, are paying almost 50% of the total remuneration. Almost 1/3 goes in social security payments, and almost another 20% goes in different income and VAT taxes. So workers are paying almost half their salary to the government, and they're not getting much in return. And they're having to pay more with the tax increases and getting less from all the cutbacks. So obviously they're very angry and annoyed, and they're looking for alternatives. And they don't trust the politicians anymore, because we can see that the politicians are the first ones to cook the books.
Mr. Moreno de la Cova also explained why, in this case, Spaniards have so little trust in their government and its ability to put their taxes to good use.
Spain's Popular Party is now in the news in a major corruption scandal in which politicians are accused of having received underground economy payments, cash payments in envelopes. The Socialist Party is also involved in a very similar scandal in Andalusia. And the Convergencia y Unión Catalan Regional Party is also involved in a similar scandal, the Liceo scandal. So all the main Spanish parties are right now caught up in major illegal financing scandals in which they've been receiving cash payments. How can they expect people on the street in Spain who are suffering, have been suffering this crisis for over 5 years, not to do the same?